We all experience shifts in our personal style. Usually those shifts are gradual, but occasionally they can happen rapidly. My friend, freelance musician and singer Lindsay Ashworth Fraser, and I are both at a style crossroads ourselves. In this episode, we talk about where we've found ourselves stylistically, what brought us here, what's next, and how to ethically pass on the items that are no longer serving us. Stick around a couple of minutes for this pretty personal conversation. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 17 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge, Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate and ecological crises, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to them. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Hi lovely, thank you for pressing play on this episode. Are you doing okay? Have you had any sustainability wins lately? Here are some inspiring moves made by Check Your Thread patron Aoife, who kindly posted in the community chat spaces in the Check Your Thread Patreon. Aoife writes, made a few little bits of progress today on my goal to find a use for stuff rather than throwing it out or letting it take up space and stress me out, and on my goal to mend things before they become unusable and have to be thrown out. I shredded a couple of shirts that I'm never going to wear but also don't feel motivated to upcycle or alter so that they can be stuffing for the cat bed that I'm making and stuffing with scraps. And then one of my cats committed a crime on my slippers and I had to wash them. So I went ahead and finally mended the hole in the toe while they were fresh from the wash. Amazing! So many wins in that one. Well done, Aoife. Speaking of patrons, huge thanks to Gemma for signing up to support the podcast via Patreon this week. I couldn't make this podcast without the support of patrons. Thank you heaps. I'll be scheduling the December mending meetups plus at least one more sew together session, all of which take place via Zoom, and I'm going to do that very soon. I want to get those in before festive madness takes hold too hard. So if you'd like in on those opportunities for sewing and community and you haven't signed up yet, please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread. Right, so this week's episode, I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable right now because I do share some personal stuff in here. Plus, Lindsay is also really open and honest about where she's at with her life also. I really want to thank Lindsay for giving me her time to have this conversation. I don't know if we really solved anything for anyone, but I think that our discussion will resonate with some people and maybe provoke some useful thought. So until next week, when I'll be talking to a lovely repeat guest about a certain seasonal challenge that is right around the corner, take care of yourselves and everyone in your life and beyond that deserve it. And if you have an animal in your life, or if someone close to you does, consider making a pet bed stuffed with scraps like Aoife. And enjoy. But yeah, so but beyond that, I'm good. I'm just like massively just on a sewing kick at the moment. Like all I
know, you're so
sewing.
Productive. I've literally made a bag and you've made like a whole new wardrobe.
No, but I don't know. It's fueling me so much at the moment. And I think it's part of what we're going to be talking about.
What we're going to talk about. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, Lindsay, regular listeners of the podcast will have heard your voice on the Secrets of Successful Destashing episodes, which were 180 and 181, because you kindly gave voice to some of the written submissions from listeners, and I was so happy to have you part of that. It was so special, so thank you again.
You are welcome.
I can't believe they were over like 20 episodes ago. Like I feel like we just did that a few weeks ago, but...
Yeah, it's been a busy time, I guess, over summer and things. Yeah.
But now you're back on the podcast, and this time properly, because we're going to actually hear your voice.
I'm honoured. Thank you.
Voicing your own thoughts and experiences. Yeah, so thank you so much for giving some of your time today. And I've been dying to have this conversation with you because we touched upon it, didn't we? I think on Instagram, and it was like, stop, hold that thought. Let's have this conversation properly rather than a back and forth through DMs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I commented on something and you said, oh, would you be interested in expanding on that for a podcast episode? And I said, absolutely. Any excuse to talk to you. So.
Oh, bless you. So for those who don't know, can you tell us who you are, where you are and what fills your days?
Yes. Oh, hearing those questions to me. So I'm Lindsay and I am based in Glasgow in Scotland in the UK. And what fills my days? Well, mainly dog walking, taking my son to school, then trying to get in all my admin and things for my jobs, any work that I have to do because I'm self-employed. So it's just always a juggle. And a lot of music in our family. So there's lots of singing going on most of the time. And then in the little gaps, I try to do some sewing.
Yay!
Not as much as I would like, but I've realised that lots of people say that buying fabric and sewing are two separate hobbies, and I think that listening to sewing podcasts and watching YouTube sewing content and sewing are two different hobbies, because I spend a lot of time doing that, going, oh, that would be a lovely thing to make, and then not making it.
Brilliant. So we are going to be talking about personal style, because that was the topic that that we were conversing back and forth about a little bit. So I just quickly put down a few questions that I thought we could both answer, just to get ourselves into the kind of mindset of it. So what does personal style mean to you? Like, what role does it play, would you say?
I think it's, for me, I guess sort of there's an internal aspect to it and an external aspect to it. So the sort of internal would be, I feel like myself while I'm wearing this. And, you know, you sort of feel comfortable, and you can, I guess, project or just be your authentic self when you're wearing whatever you're wearing. And obviously that it differs depending what you're doing. And that's a big thing for me, I have realised as I've been thinking about this conversation. So I guess that's the kind of internal thing, because I'm quite sensitive, I've realised, to what things feel like in a sort of sensory capacity. And if I don't feel comfortable in what I'm wearing, I then find it hard to do whatever it is that I'm trying to do while I'm wearing those clothes, if that makes sense. And I think externally, definitely personal style to me is, again, I think just that representation of who you are to the outside world. And for me, it's not really what I'm trying to sort of put out there. I think it's more just when you look at somebody and you think, oh, that's them, and you can't really put your finger on it. I think those are the people that I gravitate towards their style. Like, I've got friends like that who I feel like you could put anything on them, and just the way they hold themselves or the way that they are, you would sort of see that style coming through in some weird way, and you could put those clothes on somebody else and they would sort of wear them completely differently. So
Interesting.
yeah. And what does it mean to you?
Kind of the same. I think you said it better than what I was thinking. But yeah, I guess that it is, like, for personal style, to me, it is a sense of self. And it's kind of how you perceive yourself, and also how you wish to be perceived. Because I really feel like style and presentation of self in all those forms, like, it's a form of communication, isn't it?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that. And I don't know if I've ever really felt about clothes in that way, in a strange sense. And I think that's weird. Now I say it out loud. I think, well, I guess I've never consciously thought, I'm going to wear this because it's going to say X, Y, or Z.
That's it, exactly. I don't think it's necessary, unless you're literally like wearing a band t-shirt saying, like, I love this band. I don't think it's a conscious thing most of the time.
No, I guess
isn't
not.
For me.
It's just kind of this is what I like, and I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, like, this is the type of person I am.
I think
I'm the type of person that wears dungarees.
I think I'm so disconnected with fashion though now, that in terms, like, in the sense of what is in or out, and I quite like that, to be honest. I know I'm sort of influenced by what sewing patterns I'm looking at and things, but I don't sort of devour magazines the way I used to when I was younger. So I'm quite glad now that I look at things going, do I like that? Yes or no? Or am I going to feel good wearing that? And that is literally my bar now. It's not... I mean, obviously some things you see other people wearing and you think, oh, that's cool. And then that you're influenced that way. But there's no bit of me that's like, oh, roughly skirts are in, so I better get one. You know, I just... Yeah,
absolutely.
That's quite refreshing. I think that comes with age, right?
Completely, yeah. I feel like that kind of information is interesting, but it kind of washes over me in terms of, like, a personal influence, you know? Like, I think it's interesting because I wonder what it is about roughly skirts or whatever that is somehow tapping into something in society more broadly, or the culture more broadly. So I think that that's interesting, and I like to clock, you know, like something like, why is red shoes suddenly a thing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in that and thinking, well, why is that suddenly a thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't translate like, oh, well, therefore I must get some red shoes or make a ruffly skirt, you know. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think also when you sew, you're not beholden to that as much, because obviously when you're shopping on the high street, you are at the mercy of what is in those shops.
Yeah, especially with colour, don't you think? I remember that, yeah, when I used to not make my own clothes, it was like you could only get things in teal, or you could only get things in navy, or there just wasn't, it was so restrictive, wasn't it?
Yeah, so limited. And I think now I actually can't remember the last time I bought something out of a shop on the high street. I just can't remember. But when I do go in, if I have to get something for Rue, my son, or whatever, and I sort of walk through Marks and Spencer's or whatever, and I automatically think, oh, that's nice, but I don't want it in that colour. Or, you know, I'm automatically sort of deciding how I would change it if I was going to make it. And you think, oh, that's such a shame that some people don't have that freedom.
Absolutely, because you have to make all those choices, don't you, when you're making something. Like, it doesn't, unless you're getting something that's part of a kit, like, you have to make all those choices for it to be.
And that is one of my problems, because I'm so indecisive.
So do you think, I mean, like, so, okay, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate,
okay,
because obviously I have an opinion, but do you think that, does style even matter? Like, does personal style even matter?
It's interesting. I think it obviously does, because we all make decisions about what we wear every day. I would say that at the moment, and this is something I definitely want to change, that I dress very practically for what I'm doing without much regard for what I look like. Obviously, I've bought those clothes in the first place, though. So you have had to make some decisions about, like, what pair of leggings I'm going to wear on my dog walk. For me, what I've realised over the last few years, and I think this is why I said to Zoe, this is going to turn into a therapy session for me, but that I think it's about showing up for yourself in the world. And I think for a while I've perhaps not been doing that as much as I should have. And I think it's maybe been lots of things, but one of the things is definitely a pushback to society for me about the fact that, especially as women, you're kind of told that you have to look a certain way, or you have to, you know, especially at our age, I don't know about your friends, Zoe, or people that you follow online, but, you know, it's all about what procedures people are having and what fillers they've had done and all that kind of stuff, and tattooed eyebrows and that kind of thing. And, you know, I push against that, because, well, I've got better things to spend my money on, frankly. But so I think I've maybe gone so much the other way that you think, well, no, you should still be making an effort to show the world that you care about yourself and the environment that you're in.
To show you.
And to show you, exactly.
That you care,
Yeah, but I also think that for me, I also feel that, you know, your true self sort of shines out of you, and that is more important than what you're wearing. So I do struggle with those kind of two things, like putting a lot of time and effort into what you look like, when, you know, I'm always trying to kind of see past that in people as well, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I do find that quite a tricky thing. And also with the whole environmental aspect as well, is that, you know, we don't need a lot of clothes. So, you know, I do struggle with that kind of thing. Well, it's like, well, I've got a pair of jeans. Like, do I need another pair of jeans? Well, technically, no. So I'm very much like stripping everything back to like the bare bones, and I think I don't actually own a jumper that doesn't have a hole in it. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, I've gone like way the other way. And then we are also going to talk, I think, about then what do you do with those clothes when you are done with them, and that's another issue. So all these things, I think, it feels like a jumble of thoughts, but I think they're all connected.
Absolutely. I do think style matters. I think people often go, oh, well, clothes, that's just shallow. That's, you know, and I wonder if there is an aspect of that. It's often something that women tend to be more engaged in. Subsequently, is it belittled? Like, style and presentation of self. For me, it's a form of creativity, and it's a form of play and a form of communication. And I don't think that creativity, play or communication are trivial things, you know. I think they're essential to being a fulfilled human. I think where it gets complicated, where it gets confusing, is when consumerism plays, you know, it's linked to the consumerism and disposability. But I think if you're striving to either make or buy or curate or rework or something, things in a way that is really authentically you or an aspect of you, I don't think that that's trivial. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I do totally know what you mean. And I think I've never, and this is maybe partly to do with my previous work, which I think we're going to talk about careers and stuff, I think, as well.
Very shortly, yeah.
But I think that I've never really sort of seen clothes as sort of play and creativity unless I'm working on a costume for a show or some sort of fancy dress party or whatever. And I think I've maybe missed that kind of fun aspect of clothes, because I think as well, like, we grew up in the 90s, right? So, you know, it was very much what's flattering, what makes you look the thinnest that you can possibly look. And, you know, those things that I'm now realizing that, you know, that's ingrained in us. That's really hard.
The messaging
was awful. And you didn't realize at the time until people play it back to you now and you think, oh my gosh, I was consuming that America's Top Model content and Kate Moss and all the magazines and all that kind of thing. I think from that point of view, it was always clothing when I was sort of putting it on me to go out or whatever. It was always, you know, how can you make yourself look really as thin as possible? I don't want to get into those kind of things that might trigger people, obviously, but I think changing our viewpoint from flattering to fun would be a huge thing. I know I don't wear certain things because they make me look bigger, and I don't know if that's just something that I don't like loads of fabric. I don't like voluminous kind of clothing, really. I don't like how it feels. So that is one reason why I don't wear, you know, big dresses that have got loads of fabric and things. I just don't feel comfortable in them. But also I think there is definitely a part of it, of the fact that, you know, you can't see your shape necessarily underneath that, and that I think that has come a lot from what we were messaged
growing up in the
90s. Absolutely.
Exactly. I just remember, you know, consuming a lot of magazines and stuff in the 90s because there wasn't Instagram and everything else.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And there was just no way to be right, was there? I just remember article after article, like, this is what you should wear to make yourself more this or less this. There was just never a way to be like, it was just always framed in like, your body is wrong no matter what. If you're either too tall or you're too short or you're too curvy or you're too skinny or you're too boyish figured, or, you know, there was never a way to be right. It was always, if you're this, you should wear this. If you're that, you should do that. If you've got this kind of face, you should have this haircut. Do you know what I mean? It was never like presented as like a positive way. It was always like how to correct the things that are wrong with you.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm a perfectionist, a total perfectionist. So I think that for me, sort of dressing was and is actually, when I sort of put an outfit together now, I always think, oh, is this right? Is this the right answer to this dressing question?
Interesting.
Rather than, what do I feel like wearing today? Or what kind of message do I want to put out in the world today? I very rarely think that when I'm dressing. I did when I was auditioning for things. So I used to do a lot of stage work, and I used to go into auditions a lot. And you always had to think, like, you can't dress up as the character you're auditioning for. However, you can give the vibe of the character or the vibe of the show. So that was when I did that.
I really want to dig into that a bit more very shortly, but I just want to ask one more question that we can both answer. Are you at a bit of a style crossroads?
Absolutely. Crossroads would say that I was on some sort of journey at the moment, which I don't think I am. I think I'm very much like maybe... Are
you in the style wilderness?
I think I definitely wilderness or in a ditch at the side of the road, I think. So I think... I definitely think I am. But I think it's really interesting. So I should probably say what it was that prompted this whole conversation was that Zoe said online that she's going to channel now French girl chic. Was that what you said you were going to do? So she was like, this is my new style inspiration. And I've never really sort of known what my style is, although my best friend actually said to me, oh, you know, you're somebody that I absolutely know what your style is. And so maybe I should ask her, what is my style?
Get some external perspective.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And I think I have, over the years, listened to a couple of podcasts. One was Love to Sew, and they did a really interesting one, which was 3-word style. Did you listen to that?
Yes.
And they got everyone to sort of send in their 3 words that described their style, and it was...
I think that's a really valuable exercise.
It's really valuable, and I do keep coming back to that.
Did you have your 3 words?
Well,
did you define them?
I was thinking about it last night. I think... And again, what you present to the world and what you want to present to the world are 2 very different things. So they were coming up with more like an actual sort of, it was like a noun rather than just 3 random words. So I guess mine would be chic, minimalist, dog walker. I think that's what I would like to be channeling.
At the time when I listened to that, I was like, fun art teacher.
Well, there you go. Very different than what you're trying to channel right now. Yeah, so I think that's the difference that's what I want to get, because for you, you're like, oh, this is fun, this is the character I can be now, and you're just going with it. And whereas for me, I'm going, oh, what's the answer? Like once I've worked this out, then I'll have like the perfectly created wardrobe, and then that'll be done, and I can move on with my life, and I'll have these clothes that I can wear, instead of it being like this constantly evolving thing, which it is, because we are constantly evolving. So whether we like it or not, our needs and all that changes. So yeah, so definitely I'm at a style crossroads. I think I'm quite good at dressing for sort of events and things like that. I'm good at the important stuff. I'm not good at the day-to-day stuff at the moment.
So when you're dressing for events, do you feel like you've done it correctly, or do you feel like you, as in like, this is what would be acceptable at this event, or do you feel like, yeah, this is me at this event?
This is me at this event.
Nice.
Yeah, I do. I don't feel like I need to get it right at an event. I feel like, no, I'll wear what I want, thanks.
Nice.
And sometimes that's ridiculously overdressed. Like we went to see Wicked last night, me and a bunch of people from the choir that I run. And last year we went to see the first part, because it's in 2 parts. And we just went to a local cinema. It's a nice cinema. There's a really lovely bar attached to it and stuff. But I've got an emerald green jumpsuit. It's like amazing. It's got like huge wide legs and a big like tie and huge sleeves and everything. And I was like, I'm just going to wear it. I'm only going out on a Sunday afternoon, but sod it. I'm going to wear it because, I look like Elphaba. So I wore that and everyone was like, oh, you look great. And I was like, oh, thanks. But again, that was bought for a stage performance. So, I'm good at working out what I look like from a distance. On stage, like what will look good. But yeah, the kind of from a distance in a park walking my dog is more of a problem. So yeah, no, I think the big sort of event stuff, I've got a sense of what I feel comfortable in and what I'm going to look good in. I mean, that comes from lots of mistakes, right? Lots of going to weddings in your 20s and looking back on the photos thinking, what was I wearing? But yeah, so how about you? What do you...
Yes, I'm definitely at style crossroads. And what's been interesting is there's been a few times in my life where I can really feel the style shifting. It's not like a gradual evolution. It's like something's almost clicked, I'm like, boom, I no longer feel like this, I feel like this. And that's happened recently. That happened again. It happened shortly after I had my big kid. So that would have been about 11, 12 years ago, when I went from kind of vintagey rockabilly to suddenly something else, which I think was then turned more into the beginnings of the fun art teacher evolution version of Zoe. And I felt a sudden shift. I can put my finger on it, actually. It was the Made by Ray Luna Pants pattern. It's just like
Oh, I know those. Yeah.
Yeah, like elasticated waist, kind of like woven joggers, and then there's like elasticated at the ankles as well.
Yeah, and the picture on the pattern for that is lovely. It's a kind of green sort of light fabric. I can see it. I can see them.
Yeah, it's very drapey.
Yeah, very drapey.
And I was suddenly like, oh, I want to make those. And that was such a deviation from the very fitted, very hourglass, more structured rockabilly look that I had been. And there's also like a casual rockabilly version I was doing like more in the daytimes and mumming, which was like kind of like skinny black jeans, Converse trainers, and then maybe a tight leopard print top, so there was versions of it. But then I really suddenly felt like, I think as well, like society changed, culture changed, that, what I was referencing was different. But yeah, I really felt it then, and I've just really felt it this year as well, whereas I was very much going on I look like a ceramics teacher for quite a while.
Do you feel like you're just drawn to different things really suddenly? Yeah. Okay. And it's just seeing things like amazing. Online or whatever, and you just think,
or I sort it out. Like I'm thinking, I saw a couple of things. I'm like, I want more of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I kind of build up some vision boards and stuff. But we can talk about that in a bit. I want to talk about more. I'm fascinated by the fact that because you have had a career in the theatre and you have, as you were saying, that you have chosen garments in terms of when you were going on auditions that kind of reference to a certain extent the character or the vibe of the production, but you don't want to dress up as them. That's super interesting. I guess that's a way of using clothing that most of us don't have an experience. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so maybe I'll go with two very different examples. So I was auditioning for Mamma Mia years ago, and it's quite a tricky one because you're usually pulled in. You're usually one of the younger kids. So if you know the show, there's the three older friends that Donna's the mum of the lead girl. So you're either the kind of daughter's age when you're sort of early 20s, or you're in your sort of 40s or 50s and you're playing, as women, you're playing those older characters.
Yeah.
So you usually get called in for all three of those characters at once.
Oh.
So they're usually considering you for one of those three because you're about the right age or whatever. So you kind of have, they're all very different. So if I give the film as a reference, so it's like Julie Walters, Christine Baranski, and Meryl Streep. Okay, so they're much older in the film than they normally cast in the show. In the show, they usually cast people in their early to mid 40s. But anyway, those are those three characters. So you've got the kind of like down to earth, like mumsy sort of Donna character. So very much like dungarees, white t-shirt, beachy kind of vibe. Then you've got Christine Baranski's character that's totally like vampy. So lots of leopard print, tight stuff, that kind of thing. And then Julie Walters' character is like the funny one, right? And she's usually overweight, very, very stereotypical. You can only be funny if you're fat type thing, which is ridiculous. So anyway, but you never know what, you never really know what they're considering you for. So
how do you dress for that?
How do you dress for that? Exactly. So usually, so I think I went in with like big wide leg trousers, but leopard print. And then I also wore I think I just wore like a plain sort of white t-shirt and lots of jewelry, and sort of did sort of beachy hair, I think. So you're kind of like, you could put me in any of those characters that you might want, but it's really hard. It's hard to get it right. But actually, the minute you walk into a room, and I'm often on the other side of the audition table, so I'm quite often musical director for a show, for example. So then you're watching people come in, and it is really interesting. You make judgments in a split second about someone's suitability for a role just because of how they've presented themselves, even though your intellectual self knows there's a costume department.
Yeah.
So
and hairdressers and wardrobe and makeup and
wigs, makeup, all of that. However, there is that kind of, you just have to make their jobs easier, right? Because they need to see it right in front of them. You do meet the odd director that will cast against type, and it's definitely better than when I was working more. I've not really been actively auditioning for about 10 years, which is quite scary when you say it like that. But I've seen shows since where you think, people are not what I would have imagined like the lead people looking like, for example, or they'll cast like a tall girl against a short guy. This was always my issue because I'm very tall. So they would always say, well, you can't be the romantic lead in a show because you're too tall. And you think, well, okay, that's ridiculous though, because tall people deserve love too, Yeah, but that's just how it was, right? But yeah, you need to help them, basically. You need to help the audition panel see you in that role. Then once you get further down the audition process, you're then sent material for the specific characters, and then you've got a bit of a better idea about what you maybe should be showing them, So then you can stick the big heels on and, a fitted dress if they want to see that, and you can do vampier makeup if that's, right. I love that. That is part of what I found so fascinating about being an actor, was the fact that you get to be all these different people and wear all these different things.
So did you have to have quite a variety of clothing in your wardrobe because you didn't know what was coming up, or would you then like go and shop when an audition?
Yeah, I would try not to do that, but then a lot of people would. They would full on go and buy a new outfit for auditions and things, which obviously gets expensive, and you're also buying stuff that you maybe don't even like wearing. It's just
because it's not really you.
It's not really you. So you usually end up having sort of some sort of neutral things, and you would just sort of maybe wear like a pair of trousers and then a top that was kind of, vintage inspired if you were maybe going for something that was like set, during the war, or, those kind of things. So we always used to laugh that having a tea dress was always like a really good thing to have, anything that was like set before like the 70s, you could get away with wearing that, and I think as well though, it's not just about you fitting their sort of physical picture of a character. I think it is a nod to your understanding of the piece.
Sure.
What is appropriate for this, because also when you're picking material to take in, so when you're picking songs to take in, when you're in a first round for a musical theatre audition, they usually just say, please bring a song that is appropriate to the style of the show. Now, you can read into that how you will. Is it the style historically? Is it the musical style? Is it the show style? All those kind of things. But they like to see that you understand the project. And I guess, the way you dress is part of that. And have you done your research?
Yeah. So how do you think that, or did that affect what you would wear outside of your kind of auditioning and career?
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. I think, and yeah, I'd like to turn the question back to you as well if you feel like this. I feel like when I went through my school time, I did loads of activities after school. So I would have things I would wear for those different activities, right? I'd go dancing and I'd have my leotards, I'd go swimming, I'd have that, skiing, I did like ridiculous numbers of things. And so there was very little time in your week where you got to dress purely like you can wear what you want today. So that was always my sort of occasion. I used to go to a youth group on a Sunday, and that was like my time to dress the way I wanted. And that was when I would say, this is what I'm wearing, what I think's cool at the moment.
And it's just a tiny kind of section
tiny
of the week.
section of your week. And I remember vividly going to university and then going, oh my gosh, I have to pick what to wear every day. And I didn't know what to do, because I thought, well, we're doing rehearsals a lot of the time, because I did a music degree. So we were sitting in rehearsals, playing instruments and needing to be comfortable and that type of thing. And other people would rock up like full on what I would consider like a going out outfit, to uni. And that confused me for a long time. And then when I then started working as an actor, you would have your rehearsals. So you would be wearing whatever was appropriate for those rehearsals. Lots of the time you'd be doing dancing or physical work. So you'd be wearing like rehearsal gear, right? Again, that was a sort of practical thing that you could wear. And then you'd be wearing your costume in the show at night. And then and again, so it would be, we're all going on a night out. So that's what you would dress for. So it was like one extreme or the other, really. And then doing temping jobs in between acting work. So it was usually sort of 3 or 4 months on a show, and then, 3 or 4 months in a call centre. And, that was very much, this isn't my real life, because I'm just waiting to go off on my next job.
So you don't actually even probably care that much
what or
you're wearing
commit to that part of your life. And
I'll just wear whatever.
I'll just wear whatever. And that is definitely where I am now. Just wear whatever.
Interesting.
And so I would like to change that, because the whatever is your life.
Is your life now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
So yeah, how do you feel about that? Like, how were you sort of, what am I trying to say, dictated to by, your life in the past, and maybe you're not so much now because you are working from home a lot now?
Yes and no. So I didn't do as many activities kind of in my school and teens, I think, as you did. I did do some stuff. I didn't really develop a sense of self and I don't want to say an interest in style, but a kind of like I didn't start internalizing it until I was doing my A levels. So when I was about 16, 17, I went to a sixth form. So I went to my school, and then 16 I then went to
it's quite different in England, isn't it? Uniform, and then you can suddenly dress the way you want.
So I had uniform, and then also just try to, as well, where I grew up is quite conservative, bit narrow-minded, so I just didn't want to stand out. Like, my whole thing up until that point was like, do not stand out. You don't want to get picked on. You don't want to, draw attention to yourself. But then, boom, 16, went to this sixth form, and it was a lot bigger, and there was people from further afield.
I was going to say, was it different people? So you felt like you could make a new
people.
start?
I shed a lot of, previous, and it was amazing, and I just felt so free. So then I was exploring different styles and a more alternative kind of presentation of self than the kind of restricted one that I'd been kind of adopting until then. And it was really exciting. And I was doing various A levels, but including like art design, textiles. So I was in a more kind of creative department a lot of the time. And then I remember me and my friends were discussing what we were going to wear on like a Friday night when we were going to go out. And that was one of our favourite things to do, talk about, wear, la, la, la. And I just remember there was one point where we were even I think it was even sketching like what we were going to wear. And then at one point,
next level.
I know. Well, we didn't have much going on. This is pre-internet, in the common room or whatever, the canteen. I suddenly realised, they've finished this conversation. They've moved on to something else. Whereas I wasn't finished with that conversation. I remember it really clearly. And that's when I realised, I care more about clothes than other people.
And you want to dig deeper, and they're like, I've got this top and this pair of this skirt.
Yeah, what would that mean, and how would it look? And so that was really interesting. So then it's been really important to me kind of ever since, really. And then I went on to do a foundation year, like art design foundation, and then I went on to university to do fashion design. So then it's always been about kind of clothing styling and presentation of self and stuff, and I've always felt free then to kind of explore that more and be myself.
Yeah.
I haven't had very many jobs where I've had to have a uniform or thing,
No.
but there was 2 or 3 years where I was a croupier in my early to mid 20s, and that was very much like you're basically wearing evening dresses and you have to wear makeup and you have to have heels and you have to have tights and you have to have your nails painted. And then, so when I was not at work, I just dressed like I came out of the bin, but just as a kind of, like...
Well, yeah, it's like the other extreme.
Rejection
of it.
Rejection
of it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Until to this day, I don't really like wearing nail varnish because I had to,
Yeah, and I think when you're told you have to, that's difficult. But I think, I've definitely done shows where I've had like really heavy makeup and then you actually just go, I want nothing on my face.
Nothing.
And that's... Again, for me, I think it was more like a feeling thing. Like I need, my skin needs to breathe. But
yeah, probably the same as well. Like I was wearing heels. Like I had to wear heels. Like
for hours. That must have been really
for
uncomfortable.
hours standing up, because as a dealer, you're standing up for literally like 7-8 hours. So then there was no way I was going to be wearing heels on my days off.
And did you find when you did have a uniform, so I guess that's like the only time apart from school for you, did you find that freeing because you didn't have to make decisions, or did you find that restrictive?
I guess because it was like I didn't like that job anyway. It wasn't me. The fact that I had to wear a uniform was very much in keeping with that kind of work, like because you don't have any free will.
No.
As a croupier, like you're the only person around that table that cannot choose anything. All the punters can make choices. You can't choose anything. And then you get told, what table you're going to go and stand at, what game you're going to be dealing. You get told when's your break. Then you come back from your break and you get told what other table you're going to be dealing at and what other game you're going to be dealing. So there's so no choice that it was like, of course I don't choose what I
you're
wear
wearing,
as well.
Yeah.
There was one woman, an amazing Greek woman called Vasiliki that I worked with, and she clearly loved makeup, and she would clearly take the opportunity of having to wear makeup to do some incredible makeup effects, and she just looked amazing. She had these big, beautiful brown eyes, and she'd do these incredible, colourful eyeshadows and stuff, and she just looked incredible.
And they let her do that, right? It wasn't, your makeup design wasn't fixed like an air hostess. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that prescriptive, as long as you looked like you were done up to go out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she obviously like relished in that, whereas I couldn't be asked.
No.
But and then ever since, like, I do work from home, and obviously now I'm a mum, and that has its own thing. I do enjoy going into work to Fabric Godmother a couple of days a week, so I do kind of dress differently on those days often than I do when I'm at home. But I still feel that it's me. I still feel there's just different versions of me,
Yeah, I think maybe that's interesting you say that, because I think maybe if you've got a couple of opportunities a week to kind of really decide what you're going to wear and be intentional about it, then it maybe doesn't matter that you're wearing, a sweatshirt and leggings for the other days, because you've got that outlet to be creative and wear your nice stuff and feel like you've make an effort. I think really what I've realised is that day to day or in a week, I have none of those opportunities apart from a Monday and a Wednesday night. I go out and teach my choirs, which is essentially my job at the moment. But that's a couple of hours of a night, and even then I have a branded sweatshirt that I could wear to that, which I quite like doing that. But on the other hand, it is an opportunity. It could be an opportunity for me to wear something nicer and more sort of elevated, and I think that's kind of where I might like to start. I think with
Sure. How do you think it would affect your job? Like, how do you think that whether you wore the branded sweatshirt or you wore maybe a slightly more put together outfit, how do you think that would affect the way that you were perceived and maybe I don't know, maybe even responded to?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I have thought about that quite a lot. I think you want to be kind of aspirational when you're leading a room of people. And I think that if you are put together, people trust you that you can lead them. And that is that is my job, is to lead and make people believe that they have the ability and the confidence and the potential to do what I'm asking them to do, which for some people, for some of them, they're hugely out of their comfort zone in a choir, but they've still joined one, which I think is amazing. And then I've got other people who are much more experienced, who read music, who've sung for years, you know, and they want to learn from me, which is lovely. Again, it's my whole thing of what I do is more important than what I look like to me. However, I'm not stupid, and I know that, you know, when you feel better when you've kind of put a bit of makeup on and, you know, you're wearing something that makes you feel good. People want to be learning from somebody that they sort of look up to and think, oh, I want to be a bit like that. Or, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that like, oh, you've put yourself together, you've got control, you're on this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you don't want to, you know, it's like when you sort of go to a new class or whatever, and, you know, the person runs in at the last minute and, you know, they look like they're a shambles. Exactly, yeah. But, you know, I'm always super organized for my work and prepared and all of that kind of thing. So my professionalism, I hope, is never questioned. However, that's interesting though, that sometimes I'll put all that prep ahead of, oh, well, I need to do this extra thing for tonight, so I've now not got time to do my makeup, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that will be the first thing to go. Whereas I know other people who'd be like, oh, well, I can't possibly go in to this situation without makeup on.
It's like that game face, isn't it? I've got my game face.
Yeah, definitely.
If I'm going to Fabric Godmother, I do put makeup on. It's not like going out makeup, but I put some makeup on and I wear, like, you know, my nice jeans and a blouse as opposed to joggers and a sweatshirt.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say that's because that's what's expected, or that's what you want to do?
Both.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't think it is necessarily expected. I mean, there's definitely been times when I, you know, not been feeling great or whatever, and I've gone in not. But it definitely feels nice, and yeah, and I think it is slightly part of the work culture. I think because it is a kind of place that's kind of about design and style and
yeah, exactly.
colour
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's like it's showing you understand the brief.
Yes. Oh, interesting. Oh, I like that. We understand the brief. And often the brief it's very hard to define, and it's also, yeah, there's a nuance to it, and how you respond to the brief is your own.
Yeah, and I think digging down and down and down, I think that is my underlying issue, is I don't understand the brief of my day-to-day life, because you're like, well, I'm just dropping my son at school, so this is my general day is drop my son at school with the dog, take the dog on a big walk for about an hour and a half, come home, do whatever I need to do in the house or work until I go and pick him up. And then I stand at the park for another hour with the dog, and then we walk home. I mean, I get my steps in, let me put it that way. I was like, oh, I don't do that much exercise. And then my friend was like, but you're always walking. And then I looked on my phone, and it turned out my average for the day was like 10k a day. And I was like, oh, I think I'm doing all right. So that is my brief now. And I think that's what I want to start doing, is like, your brief is walking the dog and being outside, which I love. I'm a really outdoorsy person and I love that. But I think that, you know, if that is actually your day-to-day life, rather than, oh, I'm going to go and hike up a mountain today, I'll wear my walking boots and, you know, my waterproof trousers and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. You need to change that so that you actually feel like you're not just defaulting to the practical version of what you can wear for that activity.
Why do you think that you're having those kind of feelings, that kind of realization now?
I think because I've realised that this is what my life is going to be. I think maybe for the first few years of Rue's life, so he's 9 now, you sort of thought it was temporary. You know, you're like, oh, this is just a phase. Like, I'm a new mum. It doesn't, as long as I can...
Also, like, it's so exhausting. There's not much brain space, is there? It's just go, go, go.
Yeah, you were just kind of getting through the day, right? And the company I used to work for, fitness was a big part of their brief. So while I used to teach singing for them, there was a fitness aspect to what we were doing too. So I would always be wearing like workout gear and their branded stuff. So I did have a uniform for that. So that was my day to day. And I was like, well, this is what I wear. I don't have to think about it. And actually, when I was a young mum, that was great, because it was like, this is what you wear to work. Make sure your hair and makeup are done in a kind of natural but presentable way, and then we're good. So that took up quite a lot. You know, I was working for them maybe 3 or 4 days a week, not full days, but, you know, I would be on that sort of role that many days a week. So then I didn't really have to think about it, or I didn't mind that that's what it was. And then I think I always thought, oh, I'll get back to performing at some point. And then I haven't done that, certainly not in a theatre way. And I think I've kind of made my peace with the fact that I'm not going to be doing that. Certainly not the way I used to. I was up and down to London even when I moved back. So I lived in London for years, but even when I moved back to Glasgow, I was up and down on the train a lot for various things, gigs or recording sessions or auditions or whatever. So that was kind of a normal part of my life. And again, when I would go down there, that would be my making an effort time. So that was fine. Whereas now I think, okay, my day-to-day life is I've got 2 points a week where I'm front facing to clients essentially. And the rest of the time I'm just by myself with my dog. So I think it's the realization that you're like, this is what my day-to-day life is going to look like, probably for at least the next 10 years. So are you just going to tread water for those 10 years? Or are you going to make the most of it? Yeah, because really, when I put my mind to it, I can put together a good outfit. So why am I not doing that every day?
Yeah, you can.
You're like, yeah, why are we not doing that? I've also made a new friend over the last couple of years who's super stylish. And we go dog walking together, and she looks like she just chucks clothes on, and she's one of those people that she could wear anything and she just looks like herself. She's amazing. Like, it's like oozes out of her, I think, like her style. But yeah, maybe that's kind of so I guess we talk about this stuff. So maybe it's kind of put it a little bit more
right.
And also we'll go for a dog walk every day, and every week, and we'll maybe end up in a coffee shop. And I think if I was just meeting her for a coffee, I wouldn't be wearing what I'm wearing now. I would have made more of an effort. Whereas because we're just meeting after the school run and taking the dogs and going for a drink, we're both wearing, what we're wearing to walk the dogs rather than what we're wearing to go out for a nice coffee in a really lovely coffee shop in the West End of Glasgow, which is really cool,
Yeah, yeah.
So we need to up the ante a bit.
And you were also saying that the thought of having this conversation as well would
totally, yeah, because it makes you face it, right? Like, why am I feeling like this? Why am I not making as much of an effort with my appearance as I could? And why is it that I'm not inspired by the clothes that I've got and that type of thing? So definitely. And then, but I also think the other sort of trouble as well is that when you start making your own clothes, so I've only started sewing in the last few years, and I haven't sewn loads of stuff. It's just a kind of hobby that I like being part of, and in my head, when I've got some time, I do it. It's not something that I'm spending loads of my time doing. You sort of feel like, well, I want to sew these things because I know I can sew the stuff that I really want, but that takes time, right? So I think maybe giving yourself a bit of a break and just get on Vinted and buy some stuff.
Just get on Vinted.
I actually did buy some new shoes today just before we came online, so there's one start. So how about you? What's made this change now?
So yeah, I had a big shift towards the beginning of the year. And I think for me, it was in a similar vein, I think, but it was connected to my kids getting a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of an existential wobble in general.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And I was feeling, is this it? Is this me? Is this my life? Like, my kids now are 12 and 9. And yeah, everyone can get their own snacks now. My big one can get themselves to school now, like goes on the bus and phones me that they're going to be at their friends after school and things like that. So that's been pretty major. And I guess there's a little bit of space has opened up. In a way it has, in a way and it hasn't. Like I'm packing the extra time with like starting another podcast and things like that. Like, but I guess maybe mentally I've opened up a little bit. And I guess it is that bit of like, I recently turned 46. What's the next bit? Who is Zoe at this point, If I'm not the mum of 2 small kids, who am I? And who am I? And I guess there was as well, like, I have this kind of outward life in that I make 2 podcasts, people listen to them, and I communicate with people through the Patreon and through Instagram and stuff, which is amazing. So I think maybe other people might have more of a perception of who I am than I do, in a way.
I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. I think most people, that would be the case.
Yeah. And I had a lot of questions and I was feeling just a bit kind of destabilized, and I went for some counselling at the beginning of the year. Also, I'd been experiencing for the last couple of years, it's quite a bit better now, I was experiencing anxiety pretty intensely for a couple of years. Like there'd be spells that would be horrific, and then I'd be fine for a couple of months, and then I'd have another spell
How
that
would
was
it
horrific.
kind of manifest itself?
For
If you don't mind
me,
me asking
no,
that
no,
question.
that's a good question. Well, it was very physical.
Okay.
It was very physical. A lot of nausea, a lot of dizziness.
Oh goodness, right? Okay.
Yeah, headaches. Couldn't eat. Like could not eat. Yeah, and just feeling awful. Like some panic attacks. Yeah, pretty rough. I'd have like a period of maybe a week to 10 days of being really, really bad, and then it would pass, thankfully, and yeah, and then I'd be fine for a couple of months. And I couldn't really find any link, there didn't seem to be any necessary triggers or whatever. But anyway, touch wood, I'm so much better now. So I also was wanting to speak to the counsellor about that. And then, I had a big kind of anxiety spell at the beginning of this year before I started the counselling. And I lost a chunk of weight because I just couldn't eat really until the evening for a while, quite a while, like 3 or 4 weeks. It felt like maybe it was, that sounds a bit extreme, but I lost a chunk of weight that I wasn't planning on losing. And then afterwards, like that, it's kind of changed the way I eat a little bit. Like I don't really crave sugar now, and I was proper just chucking the sugar down my face just
Well, that's a good
energy. And I also started exercising a lot as well. Well, not a lot, but way more than I was, because I read something about how anxiety and the stresses of our modern day life means that we aren't completing what's it called? I think it's like the stress cycle. So basically, we are effectively cavemen, aren't we, biologically? So we come up against kind of stresses, like there is a tiger in our village and it might eat us. So we run away, fight or flight. And then either we get eaten or we survive. And then when we survive, we then come back to our village and we celebrate. And that is completing the stress cycle. Whereas the kind of modern day chronic stresses that we have, like deadlines, money worries, politics, doom scrolling, everything, they are constant, and we don't give our bodies the opportunity, and our minds, I guess, as well, because that's part of our bodies, to complete the stress cycle.
That's really interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. But so I was thinking, all right, okay. And in this book, it was kind of saying that there are ways that you can kind of manufacture that for yourself. And there's like mindfulness things and you could do. And one of them was running. And that's something that I've tried to do on and off over my life. And I was like, well, because you're literally kind of like forcing your body to be like, I'm running away from the tiger now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So I started running a lot this year and building up my fitness to try and kind of trick my body basically into that kind of finishing the stress cycle.
Yeah, when you get home, you're safe.
Yeah, and then having those good positive hormones like the endorphins and, the oxytocin and whatever else, dopamine and stuff, rather than the, the cortisol and the adrenaline and all the, unpleasant ones. So, so it was a combination of like, shifting the way I eat, because of the way that I felt different after that period of anxiety and more exercise. So my body's different.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit more different about it. Yeah, so I think that's it. I think it was just a case of all these factors, and just I just feel like a lot more confident now. I've got a better idea of who I am because I've been focusing a little bit more on it, and I did some good work in the counselling that's kind of stayed with me. Obviously, never done.
No, but that's so good. And you've also got the time to do that. As you say, you've got the headspace to do it. I think when you've got little kids, you just don't, there is no time for that. It's just, every day is just, not survival, that's the wrong word, but you're just getting through the day, through the next thing. And you don't have the ability to sort of zoom out, I don't think, and look at things with a bit of a broader eye.
Yeah, I just really felt, I was feeling so like, so many things, including like a lot of resentment and stuff. And it was like, okay, now if I don't focus on this, I'm going to be very unhappy and I'm going to make everyone around me very unhappy. So it was partly selfish, partly selfless in that like this needs to shift. So, and it has, and I feel, great. And I guess that part of the style shift is part of that, really, I'm guessing. And that of, I think that, when I see women who are older than myself, who I think, oh my God, you look amazing. They're often women that have just this kind of like style, and they're a bit more put together, and they've like, because I've chosen not to dye my hair. No shade to people who have decided to dye their hair as it's going great. I've decided not to, but I often feel that when I see women who have let their hair, go grey naturally, when it's in a style, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Rather than it's long and they've just scraped it back or whatever. So I've kind of, been picking up clues and cues from other women who are older, thinking like, well, what do I want to be? And, how can I feel good about myself in this new body, this later time? I'm not going to be, I never say never, but I highly doubt I'll ever have any procedures or any Botox or anything like that. So there's going to be wrinkles, there's going to be grey hair. How do I embrace that, but in a way that still makes me feel confident and good? And I think you can be attractive at any age, and it's okay to look your age, but I also want to feel good. And yeah, I just feel really strongly as well that like, I feel like the messaging in society a lot is like the only correct way to be female is like a 19-year-old porn star, and I want to push against that so hard.
Yeah, totally. And I also think though social media is a massive thing. We curate what we see. And so I think, and I'm not saying this about teenagers because obviously their brains are not developed enough that they can sort of see past that. Whereas as grown adults, we should be aware we are being manipulated on social media by the people on social media, but also the people that run it. And I think that, we're only getting shown stuff that we show interest in, really. And we're only following the people we've chosen to follow. And I know there's a way more adverts now than there used to be. So I understand that is different. But when I was very late to join Instagram, and I really joined it because somebody in the sewing world was like, oh, you should do it because, you can check the hashtags of patterns and see who else has made it. And sometimes there was a movement a while ago where people were putting their measurements in their biog. I think that seems to have died a little bit. But I found a body twin of mine, which was amazing, like within like half an inch, and she's the same height as me as well. So anytime I just go on her page, and I haven't been on recently actually, but it's so useful to sort of see somebody who sort of looks like you and how will things hang and stuff.
Yeah. I've got a height twin who has very similar colouring to me. So there's been times when I've literally like, I know that she's made a jumpsuit pattern that I was thinking of. I was like, did you do anything to the crotch leg?
Exactly. Yeah, I've asked those dodgy questions as well. I know you're like, how did you find the fit round there? So I ask all these hypothetical questions for these things that I'm going to make that I don't make. But yeah, so I think we need to all be careful, be mindful of what content we're consuming. And to be honest, I think that's why the sewing world is so brilliant, because when I'm looking at something that somebody's made, I'm looking at what they've made, and not only am I saying that looks incredible, but you made that. You're impressed by the achievement of that and the craftsmanship that they've put into it and the time and the choices.
And the vision to choose that fabric and that style. And
that's what I respect. I don't respect the fact that, you've managed to lose 5 pounds by, skipping meals, not when people are ill like you, Zoe, but, just because they feel that that's what they have to do to be attractive. You're like, no, you don't need to do that. And that's what I find really inspiring about it. And I think that has meant that, that what I'm seeing is inspiring to me and is not making me feel rubbish about myself, because I'm following people that I think are doing inspiring things, and they're celebrating their achievements, and the sort of byproduct of that is amazing clothes that they look great in, and that is amazing, and that has no limit to your size or your age or your career or anything like that, and that is very inspiring to me. So more of that and less of the
more of that, less of the
oh, you've got a wrinkle. Yeah, I do, because I'm in my 40s and I laugh quite a lot, so that's fine.
I'm always smiling, sucks to be me.
I think, and also just look in the mirror less. That's another, do you know what I mean?
Top tip.
Yeah, top tip.
But yeah, we do need to now touch on, very briefly, we're having a style shift. What are we going to do with the clothes that we no longer wear or no longer feel represents us? I mean, they're fine. I mean, personally, recently, when I realised that I don't know if I'm going to put the weight back on, and I've got some things that I'm not wearing. Also, my style's changed, but also my body's changed. I have given some things away, and I've sold some things.
That's so great. Yeah, I saw you put it on Instagram and sold them.
Yeah, so I sold the things. I've given some things to my best mate, and I also put some non-me mades on Vinted as well.
Yeah,
because I was thinking, like, even if I do put the weight back on, like my style's probably going to have evolved again, so they wouldn't necessarily feel like me. And I was just sick of opening my wardrobe and seeing a ton of clothes, and I don't wear like 90% of them, I want to open my wardrobe and see things I actively am wearing, at least at some point during the year.
Yeah.
Because
it's also quite overwhelming then if you've got to sift through stuff that, it's just more clutter in your head. Yeah, that's good. So you can pass that stuff on. And I think if you're buying stuff or making stuff that's of a higher quality in the first place, it's easier to pass it on. That's why I think it's really important to buy secondhand if you're buying stuff, and buy the best quality that you can, but buy it secondhand, because if it's good enough quality for you to buy it and it's already secondhand, then I've sold stuff, I've resold stuff on Vinted for the same price I bought it for, because not necessarily my stuff but stuff for my son. I've bought him like a really nice, like, I don't know, like Jules sweatshirt or something, and he's worn it for a season, and then I sell it on again, and it doesn't really look like it's been worn anymore, which is amazing. I struggle more with, I would say I've got fewer pieces now that are rubbish quality that I therefore can't sell on. What I struggle with more is stuff that's not in good condition anymore. That's what I really struggle with, because I think, and so I just keep wearing it. So that's, and again, it's like, I know this is not a polished version of this jumper, because
it's not making
me feel great. But I also feel this huge weight of putting things away and where they're going to go. Because when you didn't used to know as much, you would give it to a charity shop and be like, oh great, they're going to make some money, and
I'm doing such good work.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you think, well, no, you're not, because that's most of that's going to get
shipped to the
somewhere.
South.
Exactly. And so I'm glad I know that now. However, I miss the naivety of being able to bag stuff up that I don't want anymore, take it to a charity shop and move on with my life.
So now it's all still in your wardrobe.
Exactly.
And there's only so many outfits you need for a really mucky job, like you're painting a bathroom or something.
Well, indeed. Yeah, exactly. I know. So I do really struggle with that. And then, but then you hear other people say, well, look, it already exists. It's going to go into landfill if it's going to go into landfill anyway. You're, by holding on to it in your house, you're not helping. And I'm not helping myself, certainly, by hanging on to a lot of stuff so basically I'm wearing a lot of stuff that should be getting moved on to probably rags, or jumpers getting ripped out and maybe re-knitted perhaps. But I do feel a huge overwhelm of that job, which I think is...
But also as well, it's not your fault that there isn't the infrastructure to deal with that,
No, but then the guilt I feel of having it in the first place is very strong. And even though I know that I've bought nothing new for the last probably 2 years. I mean, maybe not nothing, but I could count probably on one hand. Then some people say, well, maybe that's why you look like very scruffy all the time, because you haven't, so I'm not saying that I'm amazing because of that. I'm just saying that is a fact. But it does mean that I've got lots of scruffy clothes, basically, that that, as you say, there's a limit. So normal people would go, oh, I'll just wear that for dog walking. Whereas I'm like, but that's my life. So if I wear the scruffy,
my life is dog walking.
Yeah, exactly. So if I wear the scruffy stuff for dog walking, then that's all I'm wearing, which is where we are. So we're right back round.
We're right back round. Again.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I need to get over that me putting a couple of jumpers into a charity bin and they might end up getting shredded is not going to make or break the climate crisis.
Yeah, I think the answer here is, like many things, there's probably a compromise to be struck.
Indeed. You're right.
Yeah.
You are right. Yeah. So what do you do with stuff like that? That's like really scruffy. Nobody's going to wear it.
Yeah, well, I do the same, like I keep some bits. I volunteer at a repair cafe, so I take some bits that can be cut up, for
patches and stuff.
Things.
Yeah.
But there's again, like I don't have a lot of space. Like this is it.
Yeah.
And and with my kids' clothes, like if they're not in good condition or they're not in like really good condition, because most of their stuff is hand-me-downs anyway, or from charity shops initially. Yeah. I've got a hookup with. There's a family that I met through FreeCycle. Mm-hmm. Basically, I bagged up a load of my son's clothes once that he'd grown out of, and I put them on FreeCycle. And the guy requested them for his son, who's a bit smaller, came and got them. Did that again, same guy, collected them. So and they were like, shall I just take your email address? So now any time that I get a bag, every 6 months or so,
that's so great. That's so brilliant. So brilliant.
So yeah, and I think because it doesn't have to be perfect, because kids wear things through. I will put some things that are maybe like I wouldn't put in a charity shop, because I think in a charity shop they probably put in the bin.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a case of like finding people that want the thing in its actual
in its actual state. I know, I think that's the trouble, and I think most people will not want the stuff that I have. You know, I've got...
But that's not your fault because clothes are not eternal.
Well, that's it.
And they don't look amazing
That's it.
forever. And maybe keep the bits that are kind of okay, or you feel nice in, or they do serve a purpose quite well, and just accept that, like, going forward, I will not buy this kind of garment again. But it's not your fault. It's not your fault that we don't have amazing textile recycling facilities in every town, and clothes are not eternal. They're not going to last forever.
And I suppose as well, I mean, if you're wearing stuff for a long time, you know, because I do sort of look at things and I think, how long have I actually had that for? I mean, years. Everything's years. And you think, well, there's people doing like hauls for stuff.
I don't think you're the problem. It's what I'm saying.
No,
yeah,
indeed,
I don't think you're the problem. It's the people that are literally buying like 70 items a year, wearing them once, if at all, and then chucking them in the bin.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's great that you're, thinking of this stuff, but don't beat yourself up about it.
No, and I think it makes me realise that I'm stuck until I sort of do actually go, I need to get rid of some of this stuff, you know.
Yeah, because you won't have the space.
You don't have the space. And I've also got stuff from my sister's like, will you sell this on Vinted for me? And of course I've got boxes of her stuff too. Yeah, her stuff's better condition because she buys things and doesn't like them, and then, you know, not loads, but, you know, she's more like she'll buy something and then decide that she doesn't like it and it won't get worn much, so she'll pass it on or whatever. But because she's more decisive than me, whereas I'm so indecisive, it does mean that I don't shop a lot.
But it's made you more sustainable, I'd say.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm sure I've said that to you before. Like, how to be more sustainable? Just be really indecisive. Because it takes you ages to decide on anything, so you buy less. Yeah, it's exciting that these different stages of our lives, and I think that, you know, we deserve to feel lovely in all of them. Yeah, and I think it's also our generation as well. Like, there's lots more parents are all working, so there's that kind of shift has changed as well, that we're trying to wear a lot of hats and therefore wear a lot of clothes for different things as well. And
because it's like, who do I need to be
today?
Who
do I need to be today? What am I putting out there in the world, and that type of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of plates to spin. Yeah.
Well, we have dug up a lot of things. Do you feel cleansed in any way, or just a little bit more confused?
I do. I feel like I need to just declutter everything. I just need to get rid of some stuff and reprioritize.
Let's have another conversation, maybe 6 months' time, something like that, and we can see.
Pressure's on. Yeah, what we've done.
We'll see how we're feeling about things, see if any other shifts have occurred, and
Are you enjoying wearing your new clothes?
So much.
That's so good.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun.
That's so good.
Well, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I think it's going to be quite thought-provoking for people, and I can't wait to hear what other people have to say about their own experiences of style shifts and crossroads and life changes and everything.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm really excited to hear what people say, and I hope our conversations maybe just given people permission to have a little think about where they're at and what they can do to be excited about the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!